I claim to be this person.
I always try and start with some music,
Well, that's not me.
just to help you
It's
settle
hard
in
to
after a busy day
believe.
that you've had.
I hate to be mistaken for someone not me. Well, that's just me. It's hard to see. I close my eyes and I
So,
swear.
welcome everyone to Stillness in Chaos. For those who don't know me, I'm Daniel. I am the founder of Stillness in Chaos Consulting, and because you, I truly believe that all of us are wise, joyful, creative human beings, and sometimes um, okay. My Amazon Music is my Siri is overactive, and for those so wise, creative, joyful human beings, right? And sometimes a mental health issue, grief, emotional distress, whatever it is, really clouds who we are as human beings. So it's my life's purpose to support people on that journey to see themselves as these beautiful human beings. Kind of going through that myself, and that's why I kind of started this work because of my own very intense journey with mental health. And stillness and chaos is one of the ways I do it. Every few weeks, I speak to amazing people like Anu. We talk about multiple things, but we're really looking at the intersection of mental health and leadership and inner leadership. Because when you go on that leadership journey, when you go on that mental health journey, it's actually an inner leadership journey. It's also a way to kind of talk about the difficult stuff, and mental health is something that impacts all of us. So thank you for those who are here. For those who will see this on YouTube later, welcome. You can, we'd love, Anu and I would love to have reflections and questions and everything from the audience, just so that it's a nice generative conversation. We can put up your comments on the screen when it comes up, and really, yeah, this is a conversation about women embracing their power, right? It's such an important conversation, and Anu, like, thank you for taking the time to do this. It really means a lot. So thank you and welcome to Stillness and Chaos.
My pleasure. Thank you, Daniel, for inviting me. Looking forward to the conversation.
Yeah, and I know a quick intro, if I may, of you, right? So you're founder and CEO of India Leaders for Social Sector, ILSS, as we like to call it. Really looking at strengthening the talent pool, the leadership talent pool for the social sector, right?
Yeah.
And we are kind of, we know there's incredible work happening in the social sector, and how do we kind of bring in the right leaders, get them to understand what's happening, but also get them to meet as equals, is the way I look at your work, and it's really beautiful. And there are lots of different programs that you run. I know the leadership, the program for women leadership is one that's very close to your heart, and we can talk about it soon. But that's kind of the I would say what's taking most of your energy, and that's kind of like close to you. I know you were also the founding member of the Young India Fellowship and yes, Ashoka University, an incredible liberal arts university. So you've got like lots of amazing things that you're doing, but I feel your purpose, at least this is how I read it, is kind of being this enabler for change, seeing this, being a catalyst for the people who are doing the work that they're doing, and playing your part in it. And I feel you've kind of settled into that role beautifully. And just as a personal note, we met, I think, after 11 years, and it just felt like such a beautiful, reconnection. It was so easy. And I just felt it was, beautiful to have you here. So I just wanted to say that as both a personal as well as a professional introduction.
Thank you, Daniel. My pleasure to be here. And yes, it was lovely reconnecting with you. It didn't feel like 10 years had gone by. Sometimes, there's just a special kinship that just happens and you don't even know. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's beautiful. I mean, this conversation is so close to my heart, right? Because I feel I've been shaped by a lot of women and a lot of girls, and I like. Actually, you know what? Let me sing a song and play something for not just you, but all the women out there who may be watching, who I think are incredible people, leaders, and who shape the people around them. But mostly, it's also for my daughter who's turning 6, my niece who's turning 20 and just graduating, my wife and my sister who are working professionals, and my mom who's retired. So these songs are for them as well as, and you'll see what I say. Okay,
Love it.
you can hear me, no?
Yes, loud and clear.
When I was just a little girl, I asked my mother, what will I be? Will I be pretty? Will I be rich? Here's what she said to me. Kesewa, sewa, whatever will be, will be. The future's not us to see. Kesewa, sewa. That's for my daughter. For my niece, if you wanna sing out, sing out. And if you wanna be free, be free. 'Cause there's a million things to be. You know that there are. You can do what you want. The opportunity's yours. And you can find a new way. And you can do it today. You can make it all true. You can make it undo. You see. And for my wife and my daughter, my wife and my sister who are in the throes of middle age and working life. I'm only human. I'm just a woman. Help me believe in what I can be and all that I am. Show me the stairway I have to climb. Love for my sake, teach me to take one day at a time. For my mom who's retired, this is her life. La bamba, se mi sente dona poca di grazia, dona poca di grazia per i pari, yereba, 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 fortisere. So my mom is in the throes of enjoying her retired life.
Love it. Thank you, Daniel. That was fabulous.
Try to cover 4 decades or 4 stages of a woman's or a girl's life. But it's also a homage of, kind of the people who are shaping me right now, who are anchoring me. And but yeah, I just thought maybe it's also a way for you to reflect a little bit on your own journey. And if you could maybe just start us off by sharing 2 defining moments that have shaped you to be the woman you are today.
Thank you, Daniel. And I'll tell you honestly, I thought about this and I thought what really defined me to begin with. And
Mhm.
I think it was my marriage. And I'll tell you why I say that. It's because I grew up very privileged, Daniel. And I know when you talk about privilege, I do a lot of work with young women. This kind of privilege that I grew up with it was exceptional, but it also haunts me that with that level of privilege,
Mm.
what did I do? Did I do enough? And the privilege was that I grew up in South Bombay, went to those schools, colleges, had a life set out for me, which was, I thought it was very smart because I got into my CA as a college student. So suddenly I would do early morning, ambitious clearly.
Mm.
I was 18 and I was going to do my audits and I would go to morning college, I would go to evening class. Everything was just like chuck, 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 Great friends. I obviously grew up in Bombay in the 80s. And when you grew up in Bombay in the 80s, Daniel, it's still a small town. It was, you knew all your school, college friends. Everyone kind of knew each other. The neighborhoods were, it was a different scene then.
Yeah.
And I was really on a roll. And then I finished my college and I met my husband and I decided to get married to him within the month of meeting him.
Oh wow.
And I moved to California.
Mm.
In my adult brain, I thought, oh, I can hack it. I can figure it out. I'll figure
Mm,
it out.
mm,
But everything became unstuck in some ways because all the things that I had built up to. See, if I had sort of floated through college, it would be still okay, right? I mean, you know what happens in college? You're in canteens, you're dating, and it's a lot
yeah,
of
yeah,
fun stuff. But
yeah,
here was this driven person taking the train to Suri and where all to do audits and really
yeah.
putting a lot of hard work through the my college years, and I pretty much blew it up because I couldn't hack it. I
Mm,
couldn't hack it. I was in California, so in some ways you would think, oh yeah, that's a nice place, but in California nobody knows you. You're just somebody. So I took up a job which was, it was a job, right? It was not the job I would have landed if I'd been in India. I gave up my networks. You give up your identity.
mm,
I'm younger than my husband, so money wise also everything becomes unequal. It was crazy.
right.
And I'm not trying to make it like I can say it was. Oh, come on, how bad could it have been? It was California. Of course, we had fun, but I'm just saying that a lot of the things I had worked hard towards, I couldn't sustain because how are you going to do it, right? So what happens now is that you're 22, 23, your CA is gone to pot because you come back to give your exam, you fail because you just
Mm,
not got your act together anymore. You lost your mojo in some weird sort of way, and then you get have a baby, and then there's that. So it was just like lovely
right,
things were happening, but everything was unraveling in some ways.
right.
And I feel very strongly about it, Daniel. I almost think like if I was the prime minister, I would say women shouldn't even think about getting married till they're 30 because you haven't really figured yourself out. But you suddenly is okay at 22 to start being responsible for somebody else, to be responsible for a child, to be responsible when you haven't yet figured yourself out. So
Mm.
I am one of those mothers who has told both my girls that I'll break your legs if you think of
Again.
before like 30. I'll break your leg because you've got to love yourself long enough before you start loving anybody else, right?
Mm,
You got to replenish yourself.
mm.
And my older one just got married last year. She's 34. And I approve. I think
She passed the 30 mark.
she's
Good.
past the 30 mark. It's okay. Younger one is going to college, which I totally approve. So I do think that my marriage, and for a lot of women, we have made it so normal, Daniel. But for a lot of women, their life, their identity, everything they have built up to
Mm,
just goes. And it's so normalized, but it's so not right. You know,
mm,
because I run ILSS, I'm regularly meeting these senior corporate guys,
mm,
who are
mm,
looking for
mm,
social sector, all that. And so I have conversations with them. And I'll never forget this guy who was a big shot.
mm,
He'd worked globally in London and in Singapore, etc. And he's telling me, I want to pay it forward. I want to understand social impact. This has been my career. I've been, global CEO, blah, 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 blah. And my wife is a doctor, but, of course, she gave up her career to follow me around. And the casualness with which he said it,
mm.
he didn't realize that it was like a soccer punch for me. Of course, she gave it up because I'm sure she made those choices.
Yeah,
She made a
yeah,
choice and
yeah,
she
yeah.
chose. Nobody can say, like, my parents I can't accuse them. They said you chose to get married. We don't know why, but I feel like why was that even a question? Would you have
Mm,
expected your 22-year-old boy to get married? No, you would have said, are you mad? But but anyway, so I feel like these things really define a woman's life in some ways because you leave your space, you leave
mm.
your networks, you leave your spaces of strength and sometimes move. And it's not such a big deal if I had moved from Warden Road to Pedder Road, right? If I'd
Yeah,
met
you
somebody,
completely uprooted yourself in some
I
ways, right?
totally uprooted myself. I suddenly took a very, because I mean, nobody knows how great I am. I went to HR college and did all my CA exams. Who the hell are you? So I was in a startup working, as an accountant and stuff.
Right.
So
Right.
all that happens, and no, I don't have regrets, but I do have thoughts about it for the next generation. I feel like take time. Marriage is a big deal. Don't subsume yourself. So I do think that that was a defining moment for me, because I went back to doing my MBA as a mom of two, because it was just
Mm,
bothering me that I had not finished my education. I was so ambitious. What happened to me, right? And when
mm,
you come from privileged, Daniel, I'll tell you one thing, it haunts you more if you don't do your full potential. Like if
right.
I couldn't do what I was supposed to have been raised to do, what the hell, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
So that was a big defining moment for me.
Yeah. I mean, I'm here, and people who are here, please, share a reflection. Does this resonate with you in terms of marriage, kind
So
of
much
taking
privilege,
over?
maybe not. I
No,
think
forget about the privilege, but more about the identity being overtaken, being taken over by the marriage and the normalization that the woman has to
it's
follow.
totally normal.
It's so
It's totally
normalized,
normal,
right? So
and it
people who are
shouldn't
here,
be.
please say something so that we can kind of include you in the conversation as well. Yeah, I mean, part of me is I can see so much of this happening, right? Um, and coming from the family you did, your ambition and everything that you were, if you don't mind me asking, and you can say you don't answer, I'm just curious about your relationship with your husband and how that was. And like, it must have been quite.
Not really, because see, I jumped in there. So clearly,
Yeah,
something got me wanting to go on this adventure with him.
yeah,
And so it was great. Look, this is all hindsight.
yeah,
In hindsight, I gave up a lot. At that
mm,
point, I was on a high of some sort.
yeah,
So he tells me now that why did you? And I said, I don't know. I just wanted to be with you in California, and I took it
yeah,
this great big adventure. But it's not fair on him either. I actually
mm,
think in India and it's shifting. People are getting married later and all that. It's all good because we are not getting enough time to replenish ourselves, understand ourselves. How do you give to the next person or to your children? I mean, my mom had my sister when she was 19. They're like siblings. It's
yeah,
ridiculous. How
yeah,
do you expect
yeah,
momminess coming out of a 19-year-old? So it's
mm,
obviously much better now.
mm,
As generations pass, we don't let our daughters make the mistakes we
mm,
made and so on. But it's still very normalized that women will give up a lot of, because it's assumed they come with no advantages. Like,
mm,
think about it, Daniel. If he had moved to Bombay, see, he was not from Bombay. If he had moved from Bombay, he would have acquired a very solid enabling system. But we just never
yeah,
thought like that. You
yeah,
just
yeah,
follow
yeah,
the gent.
yeah.
And I see
Yeah,
very.
but yeah, and I guess also where I'm coming from is it's interesting you said marriage first, right? Because I feel I was a very, I mean, I always thought I was a very liberal man, and all that kind of stuff, right? I put myself on this, oh, I'm better than some of the other men out there. And then when I got married, that was like, oh, wait, there's still so much that I have unconsciously, kind of ingrained in myself, whatever it is, that's patriarchal society, all of that, which sometimes I've knowingly and unknowingly have absorbed, that it's playing out in my relationship, right? And I feel the reason I asked you about your relation with your husband is because I feel my wife and I are such different people, and she's very ambitious. She's very for women's, like, she wants to have that equal thing, right? And I keep saying, okay, but I'm doing so much, but still we are still trying to figure it out, and it's like it's almost like we're holding the mirror to each other, and I feel in any relationship that is such an interesting but difficult dynamic and balance to hold. So that's kind of where I was coming from.
No, absolutely. I think I I mean, as my journey progressed and as I did other things and where I am today, because that's the other defining moment for me. Of
Mm,
course, Ashoka University played a big role in getting me to start ILSS. But really, being the CEO and founder of ILSS has been like a coming of age in so many ways. Because when I think back on my life, I feel like, but if all paths led to this makes me happy.
mm,
I love what I do. It's that ikigai thing, right?
yeah,
Because I believe in lifelong learning. I'm a lifelong learner. I'm a
yeah,
bunch of things that I've discovered that has all come together at ILSS for me.
mm,
I'm
mm,
an entrepreneur at heart, and I
mm,
want more women to be entrepreneurs, because we can be multitaskers, hustlers, blah 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 blah. We don't need to have just jobs. I am a lifelong learner. I love learning. I discovered that when I went to Ashoka, because I couldn't get enough of the learning. I used to sit in the
mm.
classes that were happening, and BCom doesn't do it for you. BCom is a bullshit degree, and CA to even worse. Just like a technical thing, it's a skill
Yeah,
set. It's not
yeah,
knowledge. It's not
yeah.
moving anything in your head, right? But Ashoka was that place where suddenly my head exploded. I felt like,
Mm,
what had I come into? I really felt like I was in nirvana, because I
mm,
was attending these classes that were just so wonderful. I mean, there was one professor, I won't take his name, who used to talk about the Adivasi predicament and, rainwater harvesting and very technically dull subjects, but you could sit and listen to him for 3, 4 hours because he was just so mesmerizing.
mm,
So I think knowledge, lifelong learning, these were things that I realized I was very passionate about
mm,
when I got the exposure at Ashoka.
mm,
Um, and then, of course, the fact that I was an entrepreneurial kind of person, it's a bent of mind. Uh, helped me find this lifelong learning meets transformational leadership, meets social impact, meets
yeah,
something
yeah.
in ILSS for me.
Yeah,
So
yeah. I'm struck by that journey of yours, right? Where you talked about the loss of identity in some ways, with moving there, kind of being in a completely new environment, then having the Ashoka at university, which completely opened your mind in a way. Now you're loving what you're doing, and there was probably this like a spark or some transition point which got you from just being an observer, a learner, or whatever, to being an entrepreneur. And that's, being an entrepreneur is a big deal, right? It's a leap actually of
it's a
faith.
real, it's a
In
real.
hindsight you're like, oh, I don't know why I did that, I know that, but but it's a leap of faith. And I'm just curious, was there something that really got you
So
to
it's interesting. Uh, Ashoka was a revelation for me because, but I see hindsight is 2020, Daniel. So
yeah.
when you look back on your life, suddenly there's a pattern, which
Of course.
technically was all random stuff, right? It was a random conversation with Pramat Sinha way before Ashoka even existed. I mean,
uh,
maybe they had a name, but they were thinking of a university and stuff. It
yeah,
was
yeah.
very early days, and we started YF and all that. Uh, and I realized that I loved learning, and I
Mm,
loved and my millennial students actually gave me this, because millennials was that generation that was really taking these risks, right? They were all
mm,
choosing. They were all, my students were, lots of them are from IITs and all these colleges, but they were choosing to be in social impact. They were
mm,
choosing the 20,000 rupee salaries. They were making those choices in a way that my generation didn't, right?
mm.
I always joke that in that first year at YF, I announced in class that, oh, there's a great placement by this great MNC. And they're all looking at me. Nobody's interested. They want to be in impact space, right? They want to be in
Right.
MNCs. And I'm thinking, so it was, I grew up with them in a way, because I was suddenly saying, oh my God, these guys are so courageous. They really
Mm,
sort of want to do something to pay it forward or whatever. They
mm,
want to create value in some ways, right?
mm,
Uh, and so therefore ILSS was almost a coming. It was an easy coming together, but it was really, honestly, it was when I was leaving Ashoka. Ashish, I had a conversation with Ashish Dhawan, and he said, Anu, I have a couple of projects, and because he's sort of entrepreneurial himself, and he said, why don't you think of this or this or
mm,
this, and this lifelong learning, of course, appeal. But he told me, he said, you're very entrepreneurial.
mm.
And I hate to say that he said it, and I thought, huh, I hate to say
Right,
it, to give him credit, but that's the truth. It was like, huh, nobody told me how entrepreneurial I am. I am entrepreneurial. It's almost like somebody needed to tell me that for me to
mm,
realize that, yeah, that is
mm.
my DNA. By the way, in my past life, because my career has been like a jungle gym all over the place, I've had many career shifts. I was in American Express, TNT, in the finance function. Then I ran a travel company. I was as passionate about travel. So I
Okay,
was also entrepreneurial
got it,
one
got it.
time before, but I got scared and spooked and quit that business even though it was doing well when my partner left. I had a
Right.
partner and we were doing it together, doing well, and then she wanted to leave, and then I was like, oh, I can't do it alone, which is stupid. And so I
Right.
stopped it. Then Ashoka happened, and then of course this. So I had tried my hand at an enterprise once
Mm,
before for a couple of years, and
mm,
so it
mm,
was my
mm.
first attempt at enterprise.
Right. Right. Yeah, and I think that's the role of someone who sees you, sees almost something in you that you may not see yourself, and you just need that mirror of sorts, right?
Yeah.
And I'm just thinking of the flip side, like given that you've had such a varied career and all that, like I just like to get into the depth of, because this is a subject that I feel many of us talk to, relate to, understand, but a man will never be able to understand like what a woman goes through, right? So I just love for you to maybe talk a little bit about just like what is growing up working like in a very patriarchal society, whether it's implicit, explicit, whatever it is, like how did that play out? Just a
Oh
couple of
Lord, Daniel, we have only 30 minutes.
let's start
This might
somewhere.
take a
Let's see
couple
where
of
it goes.
days.
Yeah.
No, I mean, look, even as the founder of
Mm,
ILSS, ILS is doing very well, but I do feel like there is a certain discounting. I do
mm,
feel, and I don't look. It is what it is. In life, sometimes there is a certain
mm,
bias. It
mm,
is what it is. You can
mm,
rage about it, or you can say, okay, it is what it is. I do feel like, even for me myself, when I started
mm,
off with ILSS, to just own this role as the founder was not easy. I would have rather given it in the at the feet of Ashish. Like, I'll do all
mm.
the work, but you be the founder. I'm
Right.
honest,
Right.
because it just made it easier for me. Like, let
Mm.
him be the founder. Let me just do the hard work. Don't
Right.
give me the
Right.
state. It's
Right.
weird, but it's true.
Yeah.
And it
Is
was
this
my
a pattern? Is this a pattern you've seen? Because I don't know. I feel I've
it was my women colleagues around me saying, "Own your shit.
yeah.
What is wrong with you?"
Yeah. Own your shit. Hashtag
Really,
own your shit. That should be a
literally, it's
ILSS
the
car,
truth,
women's
Daniel.
leadership.
It's the truth. I used to call myself kind of director or something. So I
Yeah.
was running it. No, I mean there was nobody. Ashish was
Yeah.
funding me, but I was running ILSS, but was tentative and sort of coy about even designations. And I'm
Mm.
saying this very candidly because somewhere, if it helps some other woman arrive at this earlier, great.
Yeah.
And I remember somebody saying, "Why don't you call yourself the CEO?
Mm.
Why are you calling yourself a director? Like, that's too vague." Honestly. And I went and I Googled
Mm.
on LinkedIn and stuff that, okay, what do the men call themselves in the social sector? They're all CEOs.
So yeah.
They're proper. They own
Yeah.
their
Right.
org. And
Right.
here was Prasad sort of pussyfooting around a designation that, for all practical purposes, I was taking ownership of my work and my organization, but I was coy about
Yeah.
owning the
Well,
designation.
where does that come from? Because this is, I mean, this is a pattern I've seen, right? Of like, I don't want to generalize, but I feel this is not just you. Where does
I
it come
don't
from?
know. I think. I mean, look, the the pat answer would be that we uh, shy away from taking too much space and all that. I
Hmm.
mean, look, we run a women's leadership program. So we are all the time empowering these women
Right.
through the learning journey. Uh, I, it's probably all of that. It's probably feeling like it's, like, I don't know. It's deep. I can't tell you. I can give you the pat answer, which is that women, but that's not fair. I can't generalize. There may be other women that feel, but I definitely felt like I was not. I was willing to own the work, but I was not willing to own the titles.
Hmm.
And I think it was a rites of passage when I called myself CEO and founder, saying, like, dude, I'm doing the work. Ashish doesn't care. I mean, he's happy for me, right? He was not even in the, I mean, in his head, it was not an issue.
Yeah.
And of
yeah,
course, he's one of my funders now. I have many
yeah,
funders.
yeah.
But at that point, it was such a thing. And I don't know, I can't say. I wish I had a good answer for this. But each one has their own journey. I'm just calling it out for what it was for me. And I see these younger women owning and this, so like our women's leadership program, these are
Mm,
younger women in their 30s. Life is happening.
mm,
30s is the hardest for young women, right? Child care, elderly care, all the guilt that could possibly be thrown at you is thrown at you.
mm,
I mean, I've lost count of the times I was told, come on, but you're the mom. Yeah, what does it make me? What does that mean? But you're the mom, right? So we do a lot of work in articulation for the younger women that come through the ILSS program,
mm, mm,
because it's a safe space
mm,
and it's our way of paying it forward. When I was 30, I was kind of lost. I don't want these 30-year-olds to feel that lost. My daughters aren't. They are very, very strong women. And, they have me pushing them to saying, like, own yourself first.
mm.
But yeah, for me, it was a journey. And I'm so grateful that, like, my colleagues told me, my female colleagues, I must add, that look, you don't, this is your baby and you're building it. And now we have a leadership team and stuff, but own it, own that
Yeah, yeah.
designation.
No, thank you for being like I think this resonates in so many ways. I know there are a couple of comments which I cannot see for some reason over here.
I can see Anjali's comment. That's so sweet. Anjali, don't
Can
let
you
anyone tell you anything.
can
Just
you
do.
read it out because for some reason I can't see it
It
here.
says, this speaks to me deeply. I'm a single woman, 29, thriving emotionally, financially on my own. Yet somehow the conversation around me keeps circling back to marriage, as if it's the next checkbox for me. Some even claim it'll help my career. I mean, like, so much crap is thrown at women, I tell you. It's a wonder we survive and thrive the way we do, because it's just like, it's a minefield of biases, implicit,
Yeah.
explicit, and all that.
Yeah. Say some more about the taking up too much space, right? Because you spoke about that recently, or you talked
Yeah.
about that quite a lot. So I'm just curious whether something where it suddenly hit you that oh my god, this is a lot of effort. And,
Not suddenly, Daniel. I do feel like I have surrounded myself by people I listen to. I think one of the things I would urge everyone to do is to have a group of people that are trusted advisors or friends, or go to for
yeah,
different things,
yeah,
right? For me, my girls were that. They're
mm,
wise. They would show me a mirror, often tell me, just like, come on. But I was a stay-at-home mom for a few years in the middle, and my older daughter told me, "Get off your ass. I mean, what's wrong with you? You're not chasing us anymore." So these were all good messages to sort of
yeah,
get back. That returnship that doesn't happen for so many women happened for
yeah,
me, because my daughter said, "If you think you're staying at home and being a mom to us, please, you're deluding yourself. We don't need you. Get back to work." And that was the best thing she did, because that's how I came back to full time working. Because in
so
the middle, I was
beautiful.
waffling for like a few years because I had decided to stay home to be with
Right,
them, like 10th
right,
boards, 8th boards, all that.
right.
Those narratives in your head that you build. So I got myself a coach, because I had been in some very toxic office organizations. I had some terribly toxic bosses.
Mm,
There was a lot of anxiety that had built, your own imposter syndrome, which is very much there. Probably there for men too, but certainly there for women. We
yeah,
feel like you're not good enough.
yeah,
Uh, so I got a coach. Again, he was part therapist, part coach, but really helped, unpack a lot. I used to cry in front of him, but great. He helped me, saw me through some, tricky parts. So I think the thing is that surround yourself by people you can sort of go to, respect, and actually listen to them. I actually seek people out when I'm in conflict about something. Different people, different things. Like, I
mm,
won't go to my husband for something. If somebody is messing with me, I won't go to him because he becomes emotional. And that's not an objective reaction. Then I don't want to hear from you. But I'll go to, like, somebody else who I
I
know.
love it.
Let me tell you.
Yeah,
So I pick my people. But one of
yeah,
my biggest strengths is that I have realized the importance of reaching out and seeking help as well as being of help. It has to be a two-way street. So
Yeah.
I'm very consciously a mentor to
Yeah.
young women. I take that as a responsibility, and I seek mentors myself.
So I think your work is speaking for itself. Arundhati says, thank you for conceiving the Women's Leadership Program and creating a safe space. Um, and
Yes,
yeah,
Anthony is saying, oh yes, Anthony is my friend and student. We all resonate with the socialization of invisibility. I know so much.
yeah.
So, so true. I mean, we can laugh about it or you can get angry about it, but it's true that you live with a 70% discount. You're discounted. You're kind of indivisible in many situations. And
Mm.
it's just,
It
it is
was
what
so
it is.
yeah, it was so interesting. Like so, a couple of weeks ago, we did a gender audit workshop with one of the organizations I'm working with, and there were about 10, 12 women, and it was one of like three of us men. And the facilitator just asked us, how many of you feel unsafe? And literally every woman raised her hand, right? And for me, it was quite shocking. I was like, wow. I mean, for all the fact that I say that I kind of know and so on, like just seeing that was like shocking to me because I didn't realize it was so deep. And that where you talked about the safe space, it feels like that is always there, right? And it made me then reflect as a father. It's so true because I'm hyper vigilant about my daughter, right? And it's one of these invisible visible things that have happened in our society, unfortunately.
Totally. In fact, in India, I would say 10 out of 10 women will be molested slash something or the other. Some unpleasant experience will happen to them. 10 out of 10. There's no escaping it, Daniel. It's crazy. You just learn to. I was 10 or 11 when I was in the bus and obviously had no clue.
Mm,
And I remember then from then on, because obviously I was so shocked by what had happened to me in the bus, and I was glaring at everyone in the bus. I didn't know who it was because it was just one hand that snuck in when we were getting into the bus. And after that, my basta would be in front of me, and I'd walk into the bus like that, right? Because that's just the way you learn to manage. But it happens. 10 out of 10.
mm,
That's the problem with. And my daughters actually don't want to be in India sometimes because they're like, Mom. Not that the rest of the world is, but India and especially Delhi particularly seems like it could curb your freedoms in a way. Though I don't agree 100% because I have a lot of students, who are,
right.
so I mean, 26 million people in
Yeah.
Delhi. It's not like,
Yeah.
but you will have an unpleasant experience 10 out of 10. The degrees may shift, but you will have. I mean, I should take
How,
the
how do you deal with that as a parent? I mean, how do you deal with that?
how how do you look, their trauma is something. How can you deal? You can just deal with words and be supportive. It's what they have to go through, and I'm telling you, the best thing in life is are people who can actually talk to you as counselors, because sometimes as parents also your vocabulary is limited when you want to help but you don't quite know how to help, right?
Mm,
And so I do feel like, yeah, it's a learning journey. It's a continuously learning journey how you can help them navigate what traumas might come their way, for sure.
mm,
And
mm,
it's a very
mm,
dire thing I'm saying, but it's just everywhere. It's everywhere.
yeah.
I just think men need to be like these boy only schools and all that. Like, my husband's from Doon School and they're having a big debate on Doon School right now.
Right.
I just feel like men and women have to grow up together. You have to. Women are coming out more and more into the world, and you have to learn to work with women. You have to.
Mm,
There was a beautiful from what you're talking about, there was a beautiful show. I'm forgetting the name of that show, which talked about this man and a woman that came out of a bar at night, and they're walking home. I forget the name. It was Aziz Ansari, I think.
mm,
And shows the woman is walking back to her home, he's walking back to his home, and it's so beautifully shot, Daniel, because you can sense the tension in her,
right,
and you can sense the carefreeness in him, you
right,
know. And that visual is just speaks volumes, right? Because
yeah,
it's an everyday living tension
yeah,
that
yeah.
starts very early in.
The one that I recently felt exactly what you did. I don't know if you've seen Adolescence, but there's one scene, that third episode, where you see this young boy and this therapist, and that dynamic, and how he goes from being almost his friend, kind of joking, to suddenly like being this power,
Beautiful.
feeling the power. It was like so intense, right? And like that's what our kids are going through. Like I feel, um, it's the reality of the world. And how do you support the children, how do you support the young people? And so I keep thinking about it as a parent, right? And the reflection for me was, it's not done as a teenager. I mean, you'll relate to this. Like when you're a teenager we feel, okay, now it's time to step back. But
Yeah,
actually what the show told me was, actually, you know what, you need to lean in more
lean
at
in.
that point.
That's true. And I do think smartphones should not be in the hands of kids beyond a certain. I really genuinely feel like that because you're having access to something crazy. I
Mm,
don't know. I mean, I do worry about that. I do think that it is a very toxic world in there,
mm,
as you could see. And how do we protect our children from going down that? Because you're accessing it so easily.
mm, mm.
Maybe there should be
So
some sort of curbs on
yeah, I'm just
access.
thinking, if we were to come back to the workplace, especially with the women that you've been working with in the program, like what comes up? So we talked about, like own your shit. We talked about the taking up too much space. We talked about, that sort of thing of, like, yeah, I mean, we spoke mainly about that. What else are some of the patterns that you're seeing of the challenges?
I think, look, we are, no, I won't say now largely women run organization, but a lot of the leadership is women at ILSS, and it's lovely. I think at ILSS, the DNA of the organization is one of creating value in service. We all are passionate believers in lifelong learning. And see, like attracts like, right? So when I'm interviewing the folks that are in my team, they'll say things like, "We love being a part of this learning
Mm-hmm.
space, and we like to be in service of that and stuff." So I think, uh, I mean, I just feel like having people who are there to support you, like this vision for yourself. One of the things my coach told me, and by the way, I went to my coach when I was like 40, and he said, "Anu, it looks like you never had a vision for yourself." And I felt like he had soccer punched me.
Mm,
Because, sure, Daniel, who throws up 3 years of articleship and hard work to run away to California? If I had a vision for myself, like something that I had, I was just
me-
being
yeah,
I was a little rudderless. I was sort
yeah,
of
yeah,
it was a cool thing to get into CA because that would get me the
yeah.
fancy job. So I did it, but I didn't quite think it through, and so I kind of floated a little bit in my career. And when he told me, "Did you have a vision for yourself? Because you seem to have gone with the flow a little bit," and I thought,
Mm,
and we do that with the women that are in our program at work. There's a lot of, where do you see yourself?
right.
If you see yourself there, you will somehow maybe get there, right? If you don't see yourself anywhere, you're going nowhere, right? So things like that, we
Mm,
do uh,
mm,
want that. Like, I don't want the women who work with me or the people that come through our program to not have that sense of purpose. And like, I want them to learn from my experiences or from
mm,
our experience or collective experiences, a shared space, so that they can see their full potential. We are not living to our full potential if we are
yeah,
playing
yeah,
and this.
yeah. And I think a lot of what you're saying, right? Whether it's that the the owning your power, the asking for it, the looking at this vision for yourself. There's a lot of inner work that happens, right? It is a it's not just a, this is what I want in the world. It's like, it's not an external, I build skills. That's an important part. But I feel
Yeah.
there's such an inner, like, journey that a
Yes.
woman needs to go on, which has to cut through all these things. Like, I love that you talked about identity, because, like, in your story itself, it feels like you, in some ways, lost a sense of identity. But then also, as a mom, you kind of now suddenly, that role of being the primary thing for your daughters has now changed, and they wanted you to do something else. So then suddenly your identity shifts again, and that happens so many times for a woman.
That's true.
So it feels like it's a constant inner journey.
No, absolutely. It's a constant, and I mean, uh, self awareness is key. I mean, you have to be able to continuously. I mean, how do you deal with teenagers and all this? Like, you worry about your daughter. You will have to be able to find the vocabulary to sort of be able to
Mm,
soothe her in a very stressful world. I almost don't. I worry about this. What are we leaving behind as a legacy to the next generation? Right?
mm,
It's a anxiety inducing world today. And post COVID, I personally, who tended to be sort of largely a happy-ish person, feel a lot of anxiety. And I think globally, we all have PTSD just from the whole COVID experience. It was a horrific experience. We may
yeah.
have put it behind us, but it happened, right? So I think lots of things I have learned, Daniel, because we are teaching it.
Mm,
So when we have beautiful faculty come to teach at the Women's Leadership Program, I consume that literature myself. So things like, there is a thing called the self gaze that a lot of
okay.
women have. A
Right.
lot of women have this self gaze. So
Okay.
that inhibits you.
Well, what does that mean? Just say more about the self gaze.
It's incredible because when I talk about this to women, they'll say, ah, "You have it too. I've had it."
uh,
Which, and I'm like, "Yeah, dude."
okay, let's see, people are watching. Let's see if you have this
I'm
reaction. Follow.
sure Anthony probably knows what I'm talking about.
uh,
But it's this thing where you're watching yourself. And for years, I would not go to places alone. I would
mm,
not be eating alone. I wouldn't, like, with American Express, I had to travel a lot, like internationally. I would eat quietly in my room because I was too scared to be in the restaurant alone. It sounds absurd, but it's true.
mm, yeah.
And I had this self gaze on, I was so self conscious. And actually, nobody cares. And it was the most liberating thing in the world when I realized, oh my God, this is my own self gaze. And
Yeah.
when I now, and I heard it at one of our own lectures. This was
uh,
Sujata of Koro. She's another,
oh, yeah,
I
of
love her to
course.
death. And she talked about the self gaze. And I thought, Sujata, this is like decades of trauma you've removed in one fell swoop because you suddenly made me conscious of what I was living with. I wouldn't eat at airports and all alone because I was so conscious that, oh my God. I know it seems absurd, but it's
No,
true.
it's true, right?
It happens to people. And so many other things. When we are teaching, when we are talking, you learn from each other and you learn from listening to others and you reflect, this is something. One of the best things that we've done at ILSS is that we've created this learning space where we learn. The reality is we learn more than we are teaching anything. you know
Mm,
I
mm,
feel like with my mentoring also, these young women, I learn much more than they may be learning from me. But it's been wonderful because it's an inner journey. People are sharing in a safe space, and you are learning because some of those experiences are yours as well. You've just never had the courage to articulate it, right?
mm.
So, there is Miss Jesseline. Hello, hello.
Aha, let's see. This
She's
is
got
so
special
refreshingly
needs.
real. Correct, Jesslyn, full real. This is
Full, full real.
others like Jesslyn and Sayanthani and Arundhati, and thank you so much. I really appreciate, Anjali. This took a lot for you to say. So I just want to say we appreciate how you've put yourself. I mean, we can feel the emotion in your voice when you in your
Yeah.
message. So I
And
just want to say.
Anjali, thrive. If you build stuff for yourself, it's the best thing in the world. It's really there is no checkbox.
Create
Some
your
of
own
us
checkbox.
where we got married before we could even replenish ourselves. It's a whole oxygen syndrome, right? you should take the oxygen first, bhai, before you start passing it on, right?
Yeah,
If you're 20, 21, what is the sustenance you've built for yourself to be able
yeah,
to give to others, right?
yeah.
And
And I
yeah,
think,
but
sorry, keep going.
no, I'm saying you will give because it's your instinct, but it's never going to be the way you as a full person
Yeah,
could give, right?
yeah. And I think there's something, I mean, I'm not going into the gender because it's not a gender thing, but there's just this, like, we all inherently have masculine and feminine energy, right? And if you had to just look at those two separate things, the manifestations are very different. And, the feminine is the intuitiveness, the caring, the love, the nurturing. The masculine is whatever it is. And I think the work that is the beautiful thing to do is how do both sides really, like, how do you, like, as a man, how do I develop my feminine energy? And I feel I was actually shaped a lot by the women around me. Otherwise I wouldn't probably be able to talk so openly about my mental health, or have difficult conversations, whatever it is. And it's the same with women. So the thing that they talked about, the nurturing, like, I know my mom is a nurturer. She's just has been a nurturer her entire life. And she, like, it's not just her, but so many women, like, sometimes think about the other person first, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
you kind of always put yourself in the background. And I don't know if that resonates as that, like, it's a kind of a primal thing that I feel from the caveman time is kind of common. And I don't know how, like, it plays out in so many ways, but that's my theory.
No,
um,
but Daniel, I think that women are as patriarchal as men sometimes. I mean,
yeah,
sometimes you could be surrounded, you were surrounded by the right kind of
right.
messaging. You could be
Mhm.
surrounded by very patriarchal women who would say, "Beta ji, aap thali mein khana
Of
khao
course.
and we'll take your
Yes,
aarti," and you
yes,
are one step above your sister, right? But
right.
I didn't experience it either. Not my parents, we were four, and my parents were very, and I was the youngest. So my brothers and sisters were 8, 7, and 5, 6 years older. 8, 7, and 5 years older. I was like the mistake in some ways. But my parents were very, we were just
Yeah.
all kids, and, but they were still okay that I got married at 22.
Mhm.
Whereas if my brother had said that I want to marry this girl at 22, they would have said, "What's wrong with you?" Right?
Yeah,
And they never told me that. They were like, "Okay, he's a nice boy, go for it."
yeah,
And
yeah,
so those things it plays out in weird ways because they are also socialized, right?
yeah,
It's normal. Chalo,
yeah,
she's 22,
yeah,
so chalo,
yeah,
get married.
yeah. And I
Um,
think that also plays out in the workspace, right? I don't know if I'm jumping, but in some ways it is, because you can have very strong allies as, as a woman, as a leader to grow in an organization, or whatever. And you can also have very, like, a woman can pull a woman down, or a man can
oh
pull a
yes,
woman
of
down.
course.
So I'm curious if, you have thoughts on that, or you've had
No,
personal
totally.
experience.
It breaks my heart when I see women in positions of power say things like, "Oh, but like once we heard this at Ashoka, this senior, she was the head of a bank, and she said, but why do women need like maternity leave? I mean, like my parents raised
Yeah,
my daughter, and so why would I mean, like if you take a break, you are going to get like all the wrong things. Let's put it
right,
that way.
right,
And I remember my daughter was at Ashoka then, Anushka, and she got up and she said, "Look, my mom's not going to stop her career to raise my baby. You've got to, you. What is this
yeah,
thing? My parents are going to raise my baby, so you should, we policies have to change, right?" And
mm,
it when she came home, she was really raging, and I felt what a lost opportunity
yeah,
because you could have really at your position of power, you should have been much more thoughtful. But
right,
thoughtful is not a gender thing, no.
yeah,
It,
yeah,
it
of course,
thoughtful
yeah,
is
yeah,
is
yeah,
you're thoughtful, I'm thoughtful, or not thoughtful, either which
yeah,
ways. I think, but
mm,
more and more debate, discussion. I think my husband also, because three girls, me and the two girls, he's come a long journey in his journey. Uh, we've not ever asked him what was that journey, and I don't know if I'm much
yeah,
more spoken because I talk
right.
about it with my daughters and my at work. He may not be able to articulate it as well, but of course, it's been a journey of Daniel, it's interesting. We have a gender class at our leadership program. So this
Mm,
is a mid-career, these are senior corporate men.
mm,
And we have a session on the role of gender, these biases, and that's
mm,
Urvashi
mm,
Italia comes and talks. And it's the most uncomfortable session for a lot of them
mm.
because
In
they're
what way?
because you're saying things that you have not built a lens for. Eh,
Yeah,
you know
yeah,
you you
yeah,
you need to have a lens to understand what's playing out in
yeah,
front of you, right?
yeah,
Why is it that the woman will be the hostess
yeah,
in any conference? A woman will go get the glass tea, this, that.
yeah.
There are certain roles we automatically assume and play, and it's so normalized, right?
Yeah.
So when
And
Urvashi
I think
talks,
that's the thing, right? When you normalize something and then you bring it up and show the mirror,
yeah,
then it's suddenly a jar and it's like, oh, wait. And then
yeah,
you
because
cannot not see it anymore,
and
right?
you are not a villain, you just haven't built that filter. So
Yeah,
you feel bad thinking, oh shit, am I a bad person because I've been going along with this? But I mean, look, if I was a man and this was happening and people were exploiting and it was not hurting me, I mean, maybe I would have gone along with it, right?
yeah,
I am protesting because I
yeah,
think it's wrong and because I'm at the
yeah,
receiving end of that.
yeah, yeah,
But when they see it, it makes them very uncomfortable a lot
yeah.
of the times. And I told Urvashi, I said, the more uncomfortable they are, the better it is.
Better, better.
Because
No,
it's
that's where
something
the
that
growth happens.
that's
Yeah,
where the growth happens. So
yeah,
we do this every time we run that program. We'll see some pushback happening, and that's the only way you'll grow, no? From your discomfort. You
correct.
grow from your discomfort.
Yeah,
Yeah.
whether you're a woman or a man. That's a good, like, I know there's a program starting soon, for the women's. I don't know if you've already closed your thing, but anyone who's seeing this and who's loving this and wants to, like, be in discomfort and grow and learn all this, please apply to ILSS, whether this batch or
Please
later.
do.
Full plug I'm putting for you. Let's move to the other side, right? If you had to just think about, like, if you just to reflect on your journey, like, what has really helped you shine? What has allowed you to shine as the person you are today?
I think it's my favorite song. I was hoping I could ask you to sing it for me. I get by with a little help from my friends. I
uh,
really owe it to my daughters, my husband, my mentors who are my partners in at work, Sanjay, who heads my alumni council, Jesleen, all of these people who are a part of my world. I think I get by with a little help from my friends. That's what makes me thrive. Just this movement that we've
mm,
created,
mm,
that's really really helped me. And also, to be honest, doing what I love. I get up in the morning just excited about what the day will bring. I love what I'm doing. I see value and I see a sense of service in this. If you're helping someone through a learning transformational learning journey to become become aware, more self-aware, I think that's very powerful. So I love what I do, and that really helps me. But I think I have to pay homage to all my coaches, mentors, friends, siblings, daughters, everyone that's sort of been there along the way. Okay, so Daniel has exited. Any more comments from anyone since I'm on my own now? Ah, there you are.
sorry, I kicked the adapter for some reason. I should put you in some discomfort, just keep you live in front of people and like, "Arey, kya hua?"
Yeah, it's all
With a
good.
little help from your friends. That's it. Sorry.
Yes.
That's how
Yeah.
life is. It throws you curveballs. Uh, no, lovely. Listen, thank you so much. I feel we've covered lots of different things, and much like like our lives, we've meandered around on this conversation. Hopefully, people who have here have gotten some gems
I
from
hope so. I
from
really
us.
hope so.
But my takeaway is the hashtag own your shit. Uh,
Yeah, really. True.
I love the self gaze. I really think this,
It's
like
so
we,
powerful. Do you have
yeah,
it? I'm sure you
I
don't have.
do. Yeah,
Oh,
I
you
do.
have it. Okay, so I'm glad because that means
I
meditation.
do, and I feel like I brought I feel it was much stronger before. And at a certain point, I was like, why am I so self conscious? Because everyone is self conscious, right? So they are not actually looking at you and worrying about you. They are worried about themselves. So actually, it's not.
The liberating moment was when I
It's
went to
very
Bombay airport and
yeah.
I ordered a big papdi chaat and I sat and I ate it. And I thought, yes,
You
nobody
go.
cared, Anu. You could eat this
No one
papdi
cares. No one
chaat.
cares. They're all caring about themselves. No one cares about you. That's a message we want to give. Cool. What's the last question I have for every guest? What does stillness and chaos mean to you? When you hear that phrase, does that as
Uh,
an image,
a
feeling?
murmuration, murmuration.
What
Those
is it?
starlings that go here and there.
Ah,
Uh, it's it's chaotic, but it's beautiful. So I think it's a kind of leadership, uh, and for us, a lot of it happened during COVID years.
yeah,
We, as an org, were going through hell personally.
yeah,
All of us had a hellish story to tell, but there was something in the way we were organizing ourselves through those 2 years that was very beautiful. Now, when I look back and I think, so yeah, I thought about stillness and chaos, and I said, "Huh, it's that starling story."
beautiful, beautiful. Such a beautiful way to pause and end. Thank you for those who've joined us. Thank you for those who'll see this later. Anu, thank you for your friendship, for being raw and open and just going with the flow, uh, putting yourself out there. Thank you for doing that. And I'll see you in a couple of weeks. I'm speaking to someone Mainok.
Oh,
Um,
my favorite,
so
Roy.
we're
I
going to
love
be
Roy.
we're going to be speaking about our partners and our partners as leadership mirrors to ourselves. So it's kind of a nice continuation of this conversation in some ways. So
I'd
that's
love
going
to
to
comment on the site.
yes, please do. Given that we've spoken a little bit about your partner and mine as well this time. So thank you. Good night and take care. Anu, just wait for some time. Okay, bye.